Welcome to My Why, a series of personal stories that share the history and impact of YPN, the premier provider of prenatal and parenting programs in East Central Iowa. We support, educate, and empower families since 1985. Join us in our mission and learn the why YPN for so many in our community.
Welcome to another episode of My Why. My name is Alejandro Pino, and I have the honor and privilege of serving as Executive Director of YPN. And I want to just start out by saying that the next person that we have on this podcast today, and I don't say this lightly, has probably had more of an impact on not only the organization but on families than most people that have ever been around this fantastic organization. Jim Brown, ladies and gentlemen. Jim Brown is here with us today. And Jim, I will kind of let you introduce yourself a little bit, but you heard the intro. Yeah. And I want you to really hopefully feel the love, appreciation that we all have for the amazing job that you have done throughout the years and continue to do. More than anything, and I know you will agree with me, we do this for the families. Right? We do this for the families that we serve. So I will turn it over to you to tell these wonderful audience members kind of a little bit about yourself and how many years you have been volunteering for YPN.
Well, I was born in Muscatine and I grew up in Davenport.
Okay.
I went to school from grade 3 till graduating from college in a 1 square mile area.
Okay.
I graduated from St. Ambrose in 1974, 50 years ago.
50 years ago. Okay, the B's, right?
Yeah. With a degree in elementary education.
Uh-huh.
My parenting journey is really similar to our participants.
Okay.
I have 2 daughters.
Mm-hmm.
My first wife and I divorced in 1985.
Okay.
My kids were 7 and 5. I was homeless for about 3 months after the divorce, and then I moved into the Muscatine YMCA for 6 months.
Wow.
So then I came to Cedar Rapids because my kids were in Cedar Rapids.
Okay.
I had somebody that could give me a job, so I came here and went through what so many of our dads go through, and that's shared custody, weekend visits, those kinds of things. And eventually, the girl's mom and I got to be friends again.
Okay.
And so we got to be better parents because we understood that we had to stop fighting and worry about the girls.
Sure.
I remarried in 1993.
Okay.
And that wife came home from school one day. She was an educator. She came home from school one day and she said, "We're going to go to Taylor and we're going to take care of some kids." And that's how I got my first day at YPN. My first day, I was in the toddler child care, which if you're around YPN, you know that the toddlers are the biggest handful of any of the child care groups.
Yes.
And we had 3 adults, and that first night we had 19 kids.
Wow.
But I was given a one-on-one with a little boy who cried up until 5 minutes before his mom came. And she thought he was just wonderful, but there was nothing that I could do to stop him from crying. Well, 3 weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, recently, he came to my house in his cap and gown and took his picture with me.
Unbelievable.
Anyway, I started out in YPN childcare, and I did it for 3 years.
Okay.
And then the dad's group facilitator left. And Steve Nyland, who then was the dad's coordinator, he really worked to talk me into being the dad's facilitator. I really didn't want to do it because I didn't think I was qualified.
Okay.
My predecessor was so good, I just didn't think I could live up to his expectations. Well, and the first couple of years that I was the facilitator of Dad's group, I was awful. I let the guys walk all over me and had a hard time keeping them on task. And
Sure.
But as time went on, I got a little bit better. Well, in that first group, I'm going to wander off here. In that first group, we had this 19-year-old guy who had been to prenatal with his partner. And then he started coming to Dad's group. And the only reason in the early years that he kept coming to Dad's group was he was trying to pick up the young female volunteers that we had.
Interesting. Okay.
He was functionally illiterate. So we used to have to read the materials to him. Now, I've always made a big deal about child literacy.
Yes.
And I've always hammered at reading to your kids as one of the most important tasks you have. You must read to your kids. So he went to the public library and he'd check out the children's books that came with CDs.
Yeah.
And he didn't play the CDs for his son. He memorized the books by listening to the CDs, and then he read to his son.
Gosh.
One other time I got mad at him because we're not supposed to have phones in group, and our topic was child safety, and he was on his phone, and I said, now, you're not supposed to be on your phone. And he said, I'm just entering the poison hotline number.
Oh, no. Gosh, Jim, you shared so many amazing just stories in that little bit. One that I didn't know about your personal story and the connection that you have with a lot of the families that we serve as well. That's really powerful. The other thing, too, and I want the listeners to kind of know this as well, is that YPN has a specific dad's program as well, which is very, very important and still particularly unique, in the programmatic sphere that we are in right now as well. But I also want to share something that's very striking about Jim is that he has volunteered at YPN for 16 and a half years. And for anybody who has volunteered, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of care, and just dedication to be able to do that. But in those 16 and a half years, Jim, you probably have had countless just impacts on the families that we serve. And you just gave two perfect examples, of some family members there. One quick question that I have is, obviously you've seen kind of maybe some changes within the folks that we serve in those 16 and a half years. Does anything strike you or something that you've seen, either changes within YPN or within the families that we serve?
Well, two things. Our participants have gotten older. We used to have a lot more. The youngest dad I ever had in group was 16.
Okay.
But we used to have a lot more 19 and 20-year-old parents. Now I think we're more 23 to 25.
Okay.
And you mentioned about the dad's group need. That's one of the weaknesses of Cedar Rapids, is that we don't really pay attention to our dads. But I go every week just because I enjoy it. I enjoy these young men like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
I've seen them all do amazing things. They're fun. I love their attitude. They come just because they want to be good parents.
Yes. That's exactly right.
So I come every week and am a participant. Officially on the sign-in sheet, I'm an observer. But I got to facilitate last week, and that was really fun. I just love being around these young people. I'm 74 years old. I have 2 daughters who are in their 40s. One who's going to be 50 sooner than I really care to think about. I have 5 grandkids, ranging in age from 8 to 25. And I have 3 great-grandkids.
Wow.
And my great-grandson is going to be a year old in a couple of weeks. And no offense to anybody who's listening who has babies or grandkids, he is the cutest little guy in the world.
I bet. Oh, that's awesome, Jim. I love it. So you alluded to this a little bit too, but what about, the families that you've had the honor of serving inspire you? How do they inspire you?
Well, I told you the story about the young dad and literacy. And by the way, that son is going to be a junior at Centerpoint Urbana this coming year.
That's great.
And he's on the wrestling team, which to me is
kind
you're
of a big
important.
fan of. Exactly. Yeah, that's right.
But I'm in touch with past families. I hate to say it, but to me, to them, I'm YPN.
Yeah.
When they have something that they think is parenting related, they will get in touch with me. But seeing how they've matured, and I've had experiences in group with them. For instance, we had a dad who his ex-wife was trying to get him to give up his parental rights. And he came to group one night and he talked about he thought he was going to surrender his parental rights. The 6 or 7 dads that were there just adamantly talked him out of it. Watching them talk to him about how he was going to love parenthood no matter what the challenges were, what he would miss if he did give up his parental rights. And we were supposed to be done by 7:15 because of the bus.
Yeah.
Well, that night we didn't get done till quite late because the dads weren't going to let this guy leave if he was still thinking that he was going to surrender his parental rights. And that's, you want to talk inspiring.
No kidding.
That was incredibly inspiring. I said 3 sentences the whole night.
Wow.
And these guys just,
Yeah.
they talked him out of it. It was wonderful.
Wow.
Listen to them talk about the values of parenthood.
Right. That's amazing. And it's striking that you share that, because I think, sometimes we forget about the power of community that's built during our group programming piece. Just the power of having participants who understand one another and their stories and are able to contribute, to that empowerment piece that we really want, right?
Yes.
And you've been such a instrumental part in their lives as well. So as we kind of start ramping up our interview, Jim, what do you think? How would you kind of define your why? What's your why at YPN?
Oh, my why is because I've seen the results.
Yeah.
It has changed over the years, but as I have seen the families that have gone through YPN and are now adult parenting lives, that's my why. That's why I keep doing it. I want to keep seeing those young families. And now, over this last year, it has become more fascinating because I'm seeing the kids that I knew as toddlers as older. Now when I get to see the kids, that I do it as much or more for that now.
Yeah.
Because that's ultimately, we work with the parents because we want them to raise these healthy,
Right.
Respectful, intelligent kids.
Mm-hmm.
And to see them doing that, to see the product of their efforts, to see them do things that I actually told them about.
Oh, Jim, you are just an amazingly inspiring person. And I don't say that lightheartedly. And I want, the listeners to know just, and you're a perfect example of this, as the power of one can be extraordinary. And, we all have it within ourselves, I think, to impact the life of other people in such positive ways. And again, you are a fantastic example of that. YPN is a better organization because of all your contributions throughout those 16 and a half years, and many more to come. So thank you. I really appreciate it. And on behalf of not only me, but our staff and the board, and we forgot to mention, you're also board members. You're one of my bosses as well. So thanks for your service on the board as well. But just on behalf of everybody, thank you so very much for everything that you have done and continue to do. And I do want to ask you one more question here as we end our chat here. Let's see. Has there been a particular place that you have visited in your life that has kind of changed you or impacted you?
Yeah, the first time I was in the Rocky Mountains.
Really?
The first time I saw the Rocky Mountains was just absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
I saw them coming into Boulder as a shadow because it was the middle of the night. They were just this dark shape on the horizon. And then I got up the next morning and I realized how amazing the world is. Not just the people in it, but the world itself. And that really impacted me.
Impacted you, yeah. The beauty of nature is certainly striking. So, Jim, thanks again for joining us, and thanks everybody for listening. Take care of yourselves, and we'll talk to you at the next one. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to My Why, a YPN podcast. We can't make our impact without your support. Please consider donating to YPN. Your gift will make a difference. Visit www.ypniowa.org/give to donate today.